Welcome back to Blue Collar Sports, everyone. Thank you for tuning in once again. We are down here in the Pulse Radio studio at Boise State, about to start our second segment of the day. I'm your co-host, Seth Newell, joined here with co-host Trevor Brenlin. If you guys are tuned in through Twitter, Radio FX, however you're doing, we appreciate it. Also, plenty of ways you can get a hold of us from Twitter. Blue Collar SR is our Twitter handle, BCDSNR, all capitalized. We also have an Instagram, which is at Blue Collar Sports. And there is an underscore after blue and collar. So definitely multiple ways to get a hold of us. We're always trying to reach out and engage with people.
Absolutely. Thanks for making us part of your day. And now we talked about Kyler Murray and a little bit of golf in the first segment. Now in our second, it's all NBA so far. So NFL season's over. It's time to talk some NBA. And it's been wild. We had the NBA trade deadline last week. That was crazy. And now we're going to get
awesome.
Getting into the NBA All-Star break, but before that, there's been crazy stuff going on all over. So, Seth, I'll let you take it away and what's going on in the NBA world.
Yeah, lots of big news. We're also going to have our power rankings for you coming up here. Pelicans, still love you guys for what you did at the deadline, but they did not find my power rankings, that's for sure. But looking at the standings right now, just a quick update. Milwaukee Bucks still sit atop the Eastern Conference at 42-14, also own the NBA's best record right now. Pretty remarkable season they have. They are one game ahead of the Toronto Raptors, who sit in second. Pacers are surprisingly in third. They lose their star player, Victor Oladipo, all-star Victor Oladipo for the season, but they rattled off 6 wins in a row. They are firmly in third place, still 3.5 behind Toronto, but a game and a half in front of the Sixers, who are in fourth place. Sixers, I don't know if you watched the game with
Against
the
Lakers
the other night, scored 143 points. They are now 2-0 with Tobias Harris since acquiring him. He had a big game against the Lakers the other day as well. So they are looking good. They sit in fourth. Celtics have dropped their last two, both to the LA teams, the Lakers and the Clippers. Both games they were up by 20 points at one point. So having a hard time staying in the lead, but they still sit in fifth place. Then it's a huge drop-off. You got Brooklyn still commanding that sixth spot, kind of the surprise of the NBA season. Charlotte Hornets sit in seventh, and Detroit Pistons have jumped the Heat to get into the eighth spot. And then you got the Heat and the Magic and the Wizards at 9, 10, and 11, all within 3 games of the Pistons for that eighth spot. So Eastern Conference, again, we've talked about the 4 teams kind of seem to be solidified, but the Pacers are still hanging around within that conversation. I know we're going to talk about it more with when we get to our power rankings, but what does it make of the East?
Yeah, for me, it's still dominated by those 4 teams. The Pacers are not one of those 4 teams, even though they're playing very well. To me, it's still the Bucks, the Celtics, the Raptors, and the Sixers. And the Sixers have been very impressive. Big win against the Lakers. I did watch that one. They looked very in control of who they got around them. Joel Embiid had a very dominant game. And so I really like how they played together, and I think they're going to be a very good team. I'll have them in my power rankings just a little bit. But let's go to the Boston Celtics a little bit. I believe it was Marcus Morris talking a little bit about the team where there's no energy, there's no toughness, nobody's really taking control of that team, and that's what I'm afraid of right now. I think they're the most talented team in the East and the second most talented team in the NBA, and they should win the Eastern Conference because of how good of the team they are. But right now, they're just not all together. They need to figure it out now so that they can get ready for the playoffs, because if they try and turn it on once the playoffs start, it might be a little too late, and they're not gonna win the Eastern Conference. If they need to get as far as they want to, they need to turn it on right now and be that difference team that I think we all know they can be.
Yeah, Celtics, it's an interesting situation. When I think about it, when last season, go back to last year, when you lose your best player for the season, you got if you're gonna contend like they did, they had a great run, we're 1 game away from the NBA Finals. You gotta take an approach. All right, we lost our best player. How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna fight through? And toughness was kind of their approach. Terry Rozier was a very tough player. Marcus Smart played a huge role in that series. Jaylen Brown, great defender. They took the role of being tough, and they had a great season. They had no pressure on them come playoff time because they were without Kyrie Irving, 1 game short. Then this offseason comes. They get Gordon Hayward back. They get Kyrie Irving back. They hear all this stuff about how they could contend with the Warriors, how good they're going to be. It's hard to keep that tough mentality when you're hearing all this stuff. You think it's going to be so much easier now that you get your stars back. And I think that's what Marcus Morris is referring to, is you lose that edge that you're playing with. And that's what worries me for the Celtics. There's still plenty of time. I trust Brad Stevens. I love Brad Stevens. So I think they will figure it out. But it is scary that this team, they seem to have a different mindset, that they just think it's going to be a cakewalk. And And the East got a lot better during the trade deadline, and they were a team that did not get a lot better. They kind of stayed the same, which they already have enough talent. I didn't expect them to go make a move. But you look at the rest of the East. The Sixers got better. They added Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler earlier in the year. The Raptors got better with the addition of Marc Gasol. The Bucks got better, adding Nikola Mirotic. So these guys, the Celtics are definitely no shoo-in. They need to get that edge back.
Yeah, I definitely believe that too. And for the Celtics, they didn't make a move like you said. Maybe they could have made something where to get a new rejuvenated team, get more of that defensive mindset, that toughness that they need. Bring somebody in who can have that energy that kind of lifts them up for the second half of the season. But they did not do that. But I do believe somebody will step up in that locker room and make a move. Hopefully it's Kyrie Irving who needs to be their leader. And I think Brad Stevens will get this team ready to go for the playoffs.
I do really want to see them go after and get Enes Kanter. He just got bought out. He's not the toughest guy in the NBA, but he has that tough approach where he's not going to back down from. We saw him get into it with LeBron last year. He's not going to back down from anyone. He's a great teammate. Always had Russell Westbrook's back in Oklahoma City. I think he's a guy. He's a big guy. They also need a big body. I think he'd be a great fit. So I would love to see them go after get them. I do expect them to turn around, but it's got to start sooner rather than later.
And it does have that toughness attitude because he's in trouble in Turkey, so he cannot go there. He needs to stay over there. So he definitely brings a different mindset that I think the Celtics need.
Heading down to the Western Conference, the Warriors have gained hold of that number 1 seed right now, 40-15. What seemed to be kind of a frustrating year for them at the start. They have flipped around. They've won 9 of their last 10. They sit 2.5 games in front of the Denver Nuggets, who are still holding on to that 2 seed. Kind of struggling as of late, dropped a couple, but a good win against Miami last night. They sit the 2nd spot. The Thunder, who are streaking, I'm going to have a lot more Thunder later on in the show, but they are streaking. They are the 3rd seed right now. The Blazers, who have dropped their last couple, fall to 4th, tied with the Houston Rockets. So they are tied at that 4 and 5 spot. 1 game back of them, sitting in 6th, is the Utah Jazz. Spurs, who have dropped 2 spots, but they are sitting in 7th, 1 game back at Utah. And the Kings have now jumped into the 8th spot, passing the Clippers. I do think the Clippers are kind of out of it. They sold everyone at the deadline. They're going to try to build through the offseason. But the Kings are sitting in the 8th spot right now. The Lakers are 2 games back of them, sitting in 10th.
Lakers are okay. They got LeBron back, and they'll make their jump back in there. They helped their season against that big win against the Celtics. Shout out to Rajon Rondo for hitting that big shot against his former team, so that was a good one. It is very interesting. Western Conference now is different than we've seen in the past. Even though we see the Warriors at top, of course, we do. The Nuggets, surprisingly, still at number 2. But OKC Thunder, I know you're going to have a lot on them. They're definitely improving. And they're one of the hottest teams in the league right now. And everyone can't wait to see a Thunder-Warriors matchup very soon because right now it's looking like those are the 2 best teams. But then after that, I really don't know if there's anybody unless the Lakers can get a big move that could happen. But other than that, it's the Warriors to lose.
Yeah, definitely the Warriors lose. I think this is one of the easier Western Conferences they've had since they've kind of been a group. There's really not a lot of depth this year in the Western Conference. I do like the Jazz still a lot. The Lakers, I think, will get into the playoffs. I don't know if you saw Duke, Virginia was also this weekend.
Yeah.
LeBron and Rondo decided to take part and go watch that. Is anything draw your attention there?
No, they wanted to go see some good players, and that's what they did. They do their own thing, and they are the team, so let them do what they want.
Freshman showdown in that game, too. Zion and RJ both played really well. But Western Conference, going away from the Saints here, Westbrook, congratulations to Russell Westbrook last night securing his 10th straight triple-double. I'm going to have a take on this, but his 10th straight triple-double, passing Wilt Chamberlain for the most consecutive triple-doubles, and James Harden last night hit a 3 late in the game to go over 30 points for his 30th straight game with 30-plus points. Hats off to both of them, but which one's more impressive to you?
To me, I think 30 straight 30-point games is pretty impressive. I don't know if I've seen that. James Harden's been balling. I know he's controlling the ball himself. He is the Rockets team right now. But it's crazy just to think he's had 30 straight games where he's scoring 30-plus points. Russell Westbrook, he is Mr. Triple-Double. So when you think triple-double, you think of Russell Westbrook. Not surprised that he was able to get this
overrated stat
this record. I saw a stat where they almost gave him a quadruple double because of his turnovers, which I don't want to hear that. That's not a stat. So Russell Westbrook, though, very impressive, but that's who he is. He's going to play that way.
Yeah, they're both impressive. I'm not a big stats guy, as you guys know. Triple doubles, I think, are the most overrated stat in all of sports. But nonetheless, we've never seen it before. So congratulations to Russell Westbrook. Bigger congratulations to Paul George, though. This guy has been on fire. He scored 45 points against James Harden and the Rockets to beat them the other night. He scored 47 last night, and he also had a triple-double. So I'm going to play more on that later. But congrats to both these guys. The big winner, though, is the comments Michael Jordan had. Michael Jordan at Charlotte Hornets facility was asked this morning, that same question, which one of these stats is more impressive, the triple-doubles or 30-plus games? He said 6 championships. That's the winning attitude right there. I love to see that. But congrats to both these guys. Definitely well-deserving, and we'll see them come All-Star time.
Yeah, it could have been more if he didn't go play baseball.
Still got 6 of them, though. But now we are going to move into our power rankings to finish off this segment, our NBA power rankings for you. We do this in the NFL after every single week of the season. NBA, we're not going to spend as much time on it, but we're going to go through it quickly. As of right now, where does our power ranking stand? Let's get to it.
Let's get right to it. Let's start at the end with number 10. But before that, let's give 2 teams that are right outside the edge. Your Utah Jazz are not in my top 10 right now, even though I think they will get into it by the end of the season. They'll be all right. I'm not worried.
Right now.
And the Los Angeles Lakers are not in the current top 10.
Not top 20.
I really wanted to put them in. They are number 12 for me right now. But they will be in by the end of the year. Don't worry about that. Number 10, I do have the Portland Trailblazers. I know they're much higher in the Western Conference than number 10 right now, but I do think they're the same old team. It's the Trailblazers. They're going to get a high Western Conference seed, but in the playoffs, it's going to be a rough road for them. They did not make any. They made some moves, but not any huge moves to really take them over the edge. So for me right now, they stick at number 10. Number 9 is the San Antonio Spurs. They are a little bit back in the standings than some of the other teams that left out. But who do I trust more right now? It is the Spurs. I trust Greg Popovich, and I do believe the Spurs team will get into the playoffs and be a fine team. Not a lot of people are talking about him. Well, Marcus Aldridge is having a very nice year. DeRozan's doing his thing, and Aldridge is an all-star. So the Spurs, not everyone's talking about them, but they are a good team, and I trust them, and they're the number 9 team in my power rankings. Number 8, maybe it's a little low for them. It's the Denver Nuggets. I know they're second in the Western Conference, but it's just I don't know who they are yet. I don't trust them. They're number 8 for me. I want to see them how they play in the playoffs, so not ready to put them up any higher. Number 7 for me is the Houston Rockets. Not the biggest fan of this team right now because they all play through James Harden. This team's going to go how he goes. Chris Paul is coming back. He's starting to ease his way back into the system, but once it comes playoff time, I think it's going to be very hard for them to take this team over to the edge. They don't have much defense. They don't have a lot of toughness that they did in the past couple of years. So this Rockets team is different, and for me, they're at number 7. Number 6 for me, now I got 4 straight Eastern Conference teams. Number 6 for me is the Boston Celtics, which they are my favorite Eastern Conference team right now, except I don't trust them right now. They need to figure their stuff out. We were talking about it earlier this segment. They need to find that toughness that I know they can do, and I think Brad Stevens will get that figured out, and the Celtics team will be my favorite Eastern Conference team later this year. Number 5 for me is the Milwaukee Bucks. I know they have the NBA's best record, but just like the Nuggets,
5.
I don't trust them yet. I need to see him in the playoffs. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great player right now, possibly an MVP frontrunner, but the Bucks, for me, aren't the complete team that I know they can be just yet. I think they could definitely prove me wrong once we get into the playoffs. But for me right now, I don't trust them as much as some other teams, so I have them at number 5. Number 4 for me is the Toronto Raptors. I do trust them more than the Bucks. That's because Kawhi Leonard is a veteran. Kyle Lowry's been here before. And now that they have Marc Gasol, it's a big addition for them. He brings that leadership. He brings the veteran atmosphere. So the Raptors team, they are behind the Bucks, but they do trust them a lot more because of their veteran and leadership that Kawhi Leonard brings. And I think Kawhi Leonard's the best player in the Eastern Conference, even over Giannis. So number 4 for me is the Raptors. Number 3 is the Philadelphia 76ers. I know they made some great moves. They have a great starting 5, maybe the second best starting 5 in the league right now. And they had a great, impressive win against the Lakers. And I think they're going to figure it out. They're going to be one of the best Eastern Conference teams. And that's why the Celtics need to figure their stuff out right now because the Sixers team is coming for it all. And I think he could play very well. Joel Embiid's playing great. Jimmy Butler brings his attitude. Ben Simmons needs to work on some things, but he'll get there. In addition, Tobias Harris was fantastic. He balled out the other day. So this Sixer team, I'm falling in love with. They're number 3 for me. Number 2, the hottest team in the NBA is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They find themselves right behind the number 1 spot Warriors, who everybody knows. But the Thunder, they're playing great. Russell Westbrook, he finally is learning that this is Paul George's team now, and Paul George knows that. He's feeling comfortable. He got his contract situation all taken care of. Now he can play loose, and that's what the Thunder are doing, and that's why they're playing so well. And I think the Paul George, Russell Westbrook duo has been fantastic now, and they're the second best team behind the Golden State Warriors.
So I got Golden State at 1.
Yes.
To round out. That's fairly similar to mine. We do have 2 difference though. Team that you had in yours that I left off, an honorable mention of mine is the Portland Trail Blazers. I do not have them inside my power rankings. I do not have the San Antonio Spurs in mine either, which is sad to say because it's the Spurs. I still would never want to play Pop come playoff time, that's for sure. But without Dejounte Murray, I think that was a huge loss for them at the start of the year. I think this was really his year to break out. I do like how young the Spurs are, though, kind of taking a different approach, and they're still hanging around in contention. But to start off, my number 10 team is the Indiana Pacers. They have been able to stay afloat despite their injury to Victor Oladipo. And one thing I really, really like about the Pacers is their team-oriented style. I really do like the addition of Wesley Matthews. They just signed him after he got bought out. So I do think they'll be the 5th seed come playoff time behind those top 4 teams. So they still stay inside my top 10 at number 10. Number 9 for me is the Rockets. James Harden, you got to put them in, but I do not like their style of play. I think once the game slows down come playoff time, it's going to take them out of it. They think they can maybe win 1 series come playoff time, but I do not have them back in the Western Conference Finals this year. I got 3 Western Conference teams in front of them come playoff time. Number 8 is the Utah Jazz. I think this team's only going to continue to climb. I do think they will surpass the Nuggets eventually. As of right now, I have the Nuggets for them in my current power rankings because their record is so much different. But I will say, come playoff time, I think the Jazz will be the 3rd best team in the Western Conference, the 3rd best team to make a run. I think Thunder will be 2nd. I like the Jazz 3rd. Lakers and Rockets and Nuggets all in that next tier of chances to make a run. But I do really like this Jazz team. Number 7 is my Celtics team. They got a big game tonight with the Sixers on TNT.
Huge game.
Great doubleheader tonight, by the way. If you're going to want to, it's Tuesday night. Not much is on TV. Watch some NBA ball. Sixers Celtics, 6 o'clock, and then Warriors Jazz 8:30. So lots of great games there. But they are my 17. Nuggets I have at 6. I do think they'll fall, but Nikola Jokic, I talked about it last week, I think should be in the MVP conversation. Right now, I would say my top 4 for MVP. I got Giannis at 1. I got Harden at 2. I got Paul George at 3. And then I got Jokic at 4. Those guys are playing great basketball. He is very, very overlooked. He's having a great season. The Nuggets are really playing well. Sixers, I know you're not going to like this, but I got the Sixers at 5.
They'll move up.
On paper, their starting 5 is beautiful. It's a great starting 5. I love Jimmy Butler. I love the attitude he brings. But come playoff time, I don't trust Ben Simmons yet.
That's one player.
I have not seen enough from Ben Simmons for me to say. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Laker game. It was a great win. They scored 143 points. But LeBron James was guarding Ben Simmons. He was guarding him in the middle of the paint when Ben Simmons was bringing the ball up. I've never seen that before in the NBA. And I'm not saying you necessarily have to be a shooter. He's 6'10". But I don't trust his game enough yet. Embiid, I'm not willing to put a lot of trust into. Redick is streaky, and Jimmy Butler isn't the best scorer. So I don't necessarily know if I trust them come playoff time yet. I still have them below a couple Eastern Conference teams. I got the Raptors at number 4, just like you. Marc Gasol does bring a different level to them. Interesting to see he did not start in his first game, did come off the bench, but shot 7 of 11 and had 16 points. So great game from Marc Gasol, but he did come off the bench. Game be interesting to see how they utilize him. Thunder I have at 3 right now. I'm going to have plenty more on the Thunder, so I'm come later on in the show, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to have more on them. Bucks, I got the number 2 spot. They got better at the deadline. I'm looking at this team on paper. Eric Bledsoe's a good point guard. Chris Middleton's close to being a star in this league. I think Chris Middleton, Tobias Harris are kind of that next tier. Great role players and great scorers. Giannis Antetokounmpo, obviously their MVP, my favorite for MVP. Nikola Mirotic, they did not have a lot of shooting. They add shooting with Mirotic and Brook Lopez, who's played great this year. This is one of the better starting fives, and they have a deep bench. Malcolm Brogdon, great player to bring off the bench. John Henson provides a lot of length. I'm really starting to like this Bucks team, but I've yet to really see them in the playoffs, so still a lot of questions there. And of course, the Warriors, the number one, best on paper, defending champions. You can't leave them off number one.
Yeah, so a little similar to mine. Couple teams left off. Couple teams that are a lot different, like the Bucks, like the Sixers, but still pretty similar, and that is your top 10 NBA power rankings.
So yeah, those are our current top 10 power rankings. Stay tuned. We got plenty more on the NBA coming up. It's going to be a great segment to round off the first hour, and we still got a whole other hour with you later coming on. So stay tuned. We got a great show.